proves we can't ever really know what's going on.
Appearances can be deceptive.
Tom, I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know how.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.
Welcome to Framework. I'm John, one of the hosts of Framework, and with me is always the other host of Framework, Al. How are you today, Al?
I'm good, man. We are sort of almost wrapping up our Coen Brothers retrospective here. This is our last sort of new Coen material.
Yes. Now, we did talk about last time on the Coen-Oscopy, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs, the final film that the Coen Brothers collaborated on together. But there are plenty of other Coen Brother movies that have been made over the years. Each of them have directed their own solo effort, but they've also written a number of screenplays and participated in other little projects. And I think between the two of us, I think we watched them all. I think. We will find out as we talk about them today. This is the Coen Brothers ephemera and side projects, B-sides, etc.
Yeah, so we'll probably spend the most time talking about their solo projects, which were The Tragedy of Macbeth and Drive Away Dolls, respectively.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then they wrote the script for Bridge of Spies, the Steven Spielberg, Tom Hanks joint. And that one feels the most like a part of the Coen overall filmography to me of the other things I watched. But then of the other ones that I watched, that I wrote, there was the 2017, I guess, sort of thriller, maybe satire, Suburbicon, and Unbroken, the Angelina Jolie's directorial debut about a prisoner of war in World War II. Those did not feel like Coen joints to me necessarily. Well, Suburbicon kind of, but just a bad one.
It certainly looked like it from the trailers. I did not see Suburbicon. I, on the other hand, watched a remake of Gambit, 1960s Michael Caine film that they scripted for a different director. It starred Colin Firth, Alan Rickman, Cameron Diaz. Pretty unremarkable film that not many people saw or noticed, but I watched it for this. And Paris Je T'aime was another thing I saw, which is a collection of 18 short films about France, one of which written and directed by the Coen Brothers, starring Steve Buscemi. And Crime Wave. Did you see Crime Wave?
I did not.
Okay, yeah, I have seen Crime Wave. It is an early Sam Raimi film that they participated on the script with him for.
Did any of those have like anything that jumped out of you 18 episodes into the Coen-Oscopy as particularly Coen-ish?
The Paris Je T'aime one. The Paris Je T'aime one is very Coen-ish. It's not especially good, but it's kind of like light years away from the rest of the ensemble of short films within Paris Je T'aime, just in a pure filmmaking point of view. Okay, so what this movie is, and we'll talk about this so fast, came out in like 2007, I think, right between Lady Killers and No Country for Old Men. Whatever. I don't know where they are at this point in their career that they're making a 7-minute short film about France, but they did. There are 18 stories in the film. Each is about 7 minutes long, something like that. And I don't know about you. I'm not a fan of 7-minute shorts as a sort of a medium. It kind of feels like you can't really do much of anything with that unless you're doing like sketch comedy. And almost none of these are. So it's not too interesting for me. You know, this whole thing as a project. Many short films about Paris.
Sketch drama is a difficult format that's never quite taken off.
Yes. Most of these result in some sort of, very rudimentary kind of meet cute, romantically. Two characters kind of like hitting it off on the streets of Paris. This repeats over and over and over again. Rarely is it interesting. The project just, I don't know, they did another one about New York a little bit after. I love the cities of Paris and New York. I do not love these movies, and I found them kind of a chore to deal with. The Coens is about Steve Buscemi as an American tourist. He's essentially just sort of having a misadventure in a subway and he gets his ass beat, and that's about it. It's very quick. It's a comedic sketch. It's entirely funny. He's like reading out of a guidebook and kind of like going, "Oh my gosh, look at that," and then makes eye contact with some crazy French people, and they beat the shit out of him, and that's the end of the thing. Which, I mean, just in describing it, you can kind of see the difficulty of a 7-minute structure here.
No, but it does seem to have the Coens' trademark perversity in their approach. That
exactly.
There is the comedic one about Steve Buscemi not meeting or hitting it off with somebody on the streets of Paris, like defiantly not so.
Yeah, and it's full on, just like they shot it like like an old school one. Kind of looks like Barry Sonnenfeld style. A lot of extreme close-ups, a lot of symmetrical imagery. It's very noticeably shot and stage managed. The entire thing takes place in one subway platform. It's definitely one of the best parts of the movie. It's still nothing really too exciting. I mean, you can find it on YouTube, I'm sure, and that'll be fine for 7 minutes, I suppose. That's it. That's Paris Je t'aime. So moving on.
I've been curious about Crime Wave for a long time, in that it is an early collaboration between the Coen brothers and Sam Raimi that no film nerd has ever told me I should actually watch.
Yeah, it's about right. It is not, look, it's a very broad, very silly, often like it's going for Looney Tunes, it feels like it might have come out of the same cauldron as Raising Arizona, but man, is it not Raising Arizona. It is way more of a Sam Raimi film, and one of his worst ones, I would say. There's a lot of things that don't work in it. It feels like a lot of the movie was ADR'd, if I recall, there's some interesting thing. Like, the best stuff about it is definitely the filmmaking. It's watching Sam Raimi do crazy shit with his camera. Even that better in other stuff, of course, but it's certainly present here. A lot of it draws attention to itself. There's some fun actors in there. Brian James is one of the bad guys. You got kind of a team of bumbling crook villains chasing the hero around that kind of feel Coen adjacent. That feels like the biggest part of them. It's Brian James and Paul L. Smith. He's a guy, like, he was in a bunch of Altman movies. You would recognize him. He's a huge dude. Okay. He's Bluto in Popeye.
We talked about this in some other contexts. Like, you can be as virtuosic with the camera as you want, but you're saying the ADR is really noticeable. And
yes,
if you don't have the sound locked down, then the whole thing feels rinky-dink, kind of, no matter what kind of tricks you're pulling with your camera.
Very much so. It's also kind of got a sense of humor that is a bit grating, which, you put a foot wrong on that, and it can be kind of makes for an obnoxious watch. Bruce Campbell is in the film in a small role as sort of an obnoxious bully, which is, obviously, yeah, you can cast Bruce Campbell there. It would be better if he were playing the lead. The guy they have playing the lead is not that appealing, and Bruce Campbell, he can carry a film. He has matinee idol good looks that you can use, especially at this time in his career. Movie would be better starring him, and it would also probably calibrate expectations correctly. If you were coming into this watching it, it's sort of an early crime film from Raimi starring Bruce Campbell. I think you would have more to hang your hat on.
Yeah.
It's an annoying movie. Which, it's that's the unfortunate thing when you are going for an arch tone in the way that Raimi and the Coens often do. If you don't quite get the timing right, it can just sort of be grating, and that's what Crime Wave is.
Okay. And what about Gambit? Is there anything I should know about Gambit?
Not especially. I hear the original is quite good. The remake, it's a solid enough script. There's some fun dialogue. Obviously, Colin Firth and Alan Rickman are up to the challenge of Coen Brothers dialogue. Ultimately, I think it's just kind of anonymous. Not a particularly well directed film. Never really quite gets the timing, or the vibes are off. It's not funny when it kind of should be. I don't think Firth actually is well suited to this sort of thing necessarily. He's a very good actor, but Yeah. Screwball comedy, maybe not his style. Yeah. And it doesn't even really succeed as a con artist movie or a revenge movie, which sort of styles itself as kind of, but then ultimately kind of denies you the pleasures of those. I think a better director probably could have got something more out of it. If the Coens were directing it, maybe it would be something, but even still, it is the kind of definition of lightweight. And I can't really recommend it, unfortunately.
Well, that's kind of the way about both Suburbicon and Unbroken. They're not badly directed movies. They're both, one's directed by George Clooney and the other by Angelina Jolie. So
that's interesting that they're actors there.
But are they actors with enough clout that they get to pick an unused Coen Brother script for their debut as a filmmaker? Maybe this isn't Clooney's first, actually.
It's like his fifth movie. Yeah.
And he's a buddy of theirs, so I understand that part. I don't know what their connection to Angelina Jolie is particularly. But so Suburbicon feels the most like a Coen Brothers movie because it is very close to Fargo.
Aesthetically, it looked very much like their kind of deal. Like we're doing a Coen Brothers movie here. Is the vibe of the trailer.
But the plot of it is basically Fargo. But I mean, I'm going to spoil Suburbicon because nobody saw it when it came out. Nobody really needs to see it now, I suppose. But it is one. It's hard to nail down exactly what's going on at first because it's introduced with sort of a satirical, commercial for the town of Suburbicon and how it's sort of the suburb of the future or something. So I was thinking, like, is this like a Stepford situation or whatever? And everything's just a little heightened, and the houses look the same, and the people are all clean cut and all that. But then the plot of Fargo plays out. There's Matt Damon and Julianne Moore there's a home invasion at their house, and it ends up leading to his wife being killed, and then like her twin sister, sort of moves in to help with her son and all, and it teases out slower than Fargo. Like Fargo tells you right away Jerry's in on it, and this kind of takes half an hour to tease out that actually Matt Damon put this up to sort of get rid of his wife and shack up with his sister-in-law, and so they could make an insurance claim and move to Aruba or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so it's doing a lot of Fargo stuff, obviously, but with this sort of heightened satirical tone and supposed to Fargo's grounded naturalism, and almost without the humor of Fargo. It even has like a kill that's very reminiscent of Buscemi's death in Fargo in it. Okay. And there's just like a bit of a lady killers thrown in too for good measure in the final act. That is like the sort of, his criminal accomplices that he can't control, very much like Stormare and Buscemi and Fargo. They're coming after him now. And then there's an insurance investigator that also like sniffs it out and wants a piece. And
it sounds like a Coen Brothers movie. Yeah.
Yeah. People are dying through misadventure, like slowly, but there's also a whole parallel plot of the first black family moving in to this neighborhood across the street and how they're being relentlessly and just nastily harassed. That is just a very sour note that runs through the whole thing for, I guess, satire ? Purposes. It's just not, it's the plot of Fargo with all of the distinctive aspects of Fargo and the humor removed.
I mean, that's too bad. The cast is good. It's got Oscar Isaac and Glenn Fleshler, right? And probably some other good people in there, I imagine.
Alex Hassel plays a murderer in that, and he's going to go on to be the third murderer in Macbeth here towards the end of our podcast.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, but I mean, I missed this one. It sounds like no need.
No, really not.
And that's kind of how the only reason I haven't seen this at this point is that the repeated and consistent reputation of it is no need.
Much like Crime Wave, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's too bad. What happened to George Clooney as a director? His first movie, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, is a really good movie. Then he did Good Night and Good Luck. It's a very good movie. And then just nothing. Keeps trying. Just bad.
I don't know. I mean, I think his tastes run very much to like dadcore stuff. like
sure.
World War II era, you know, and Red Scare stuff with Good Night and Good Luck. And that, like, Monuments Men was a pretty big flop. I think that there's just the market for that. So I mean, he's also just so wildly successful that I don't think he has to like make movies he doesn't really want to.
No,
in front of or behind the camera.
Well, I mean, it definitely seems like, taking away the desire to really want anything is not great for art. If you don't really have to succeed, or you don't really have to tell the story of the Monuments Men, you know, you can feel it in the final product, or at least you can in George Clooney's case. There's no reason why that movie shouldn't be super fun. Look at the cast. It's Goodman. It's Bill Murray. Kate Blanchett. Damon. Clooney. They're great. They're
doing a heist against the Nazis.
What the fuck? Why isn't that a great movie? Like, come on. There's no reason for that, but it's not even it's not even a good movie. It's just kind of a bad, boring one. And it'd be hard to explain why, but it's sort of undeniable as well. Unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of a continuity of that film.
Could it have something to do with how that is a premise that sounds like it should be a Coen Brothers movie, or would be a fun Coen Brothers movie to have maybe more bumbling people doing an art heist against the Nazis. But much like Unbroken, their sensibility pairs a bit awkwardly with real, like, true life stories of high stakes war stuff.
Now, I wanted to watch this because the actor from Sinners is the star.
Is the lead, yes.
Yeah, the vampire remake. What's his name? It's a kind of a
Jack O'Connell.
Yeah, he was so fun in Sinners. He was one of the good parts of that film. Really holds the camera. I was like, I gotta check that out. You say no. I do not have to check. Yeah.
Not a fun movie. And it's also just not. It doesn't feel very inspired to me. It is sort of again, good cast. Jack O'Connell, Domhnall Gleeson's got a pretty good supporting role, but so he's a bombardier in World War II, and their plane gets shot down, and he and Domhnall and another guy have 45 minutes where it's all is lost at sea, or life of pi. And
sounds good.
And then they get picked up by the Japanese, and then he spends an hour and a half in a POW camp. And it's just, the title's right there. It's just about him enduring. He is an Olympic runner, so, endurance is good. It's the same metaphor as Marathon Man, I think, sort of about just Jewish resilience in the face of Nazi atrocities. In this case, it's Japanese atrocities, so maybe that's why they're less inspired by it. But there's nothing. I feel kind of crappy saying about it. It's a real life story about a real heroic POW, but nothing that interesting happens to him. It's just he gets a bunch of abuse heaped on him, and he waits it out until the war ends. You
could make a movie about that, one presumes.
Sure. Yeah. You could make the movie Bridge of Spies that would take that sort of figure in the standing man. I forget what the Russian words that Mark Rylance's figure used for it, but the idea that the man who endures the slings and arrows and is sort of noble in his quiet suffering, that comes across much better in Bridge of Spies than it does in this more direct POW movie.
I think you might need somebody of Spielberg's caliber to turn this script into a really solid, entertaining film. In Bridge of Spies' case,
you don't think it's a good script?
I do think it's a good script. I think it's a tough one. I think it's a very stodgy, old fashioned. I mean, we're dealing with Jimmy Stewart archetypes kind of thing, and you've cast Tom Hanks in the role. This could go wrong in many ways, and it is also, I mean, it is an old fashioned movie here. This is, we are not going to give you any sort of particularly cathartic big scenes. I guess the ending is a really good piece of filmmaking scene, the actual Bridge of Spies, but we're not getting courtroom drama here. We're not getting action scenes. Obviously, it's going to be a very, very serious film. And,
we get some courtroom drama, but Tom Hanks doesn't win any of those cases in the courtroom. I mean, you get him telling off the CIA agent at one point.
Sure. There's some entertaining moments like that. It's not a very witty film for a Coen script. It feels a little hemmed in by respect for the material, which I think, is maybe a problem in Unbroken, as you were saying. But, it comes across in this case because, everyone's working their ass off to make sure it does. This is a film made by real professionals who know what they're fucking doing. So, that's very evident.
It is, I suppose, not that hard to imagine this movie being fairly unwatchable if it's not Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. It's really hard to picture anybody but Tom Hanks doing this in my head.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
But this is one of the more interesting ones for me as a part of the Coen filmography that having watched it in this context, going into this, I would have said, well, if we have to sort that into either, is this a Spielberg movie or a Coen movie? I would have said it's definitely a Spielberg movie. Now I saw a lot more Coenisms in there.
It feels like a collaboration between the two. And it's not necessarily the one I would have expected or chosen, but I think it comes across loud and clear as such when you watch it.
Well, especially if you're watching it in short
after
after A Serious Man, you recognize that they reuse the line about how the boss isn't always right, but he's always the boss. And that made me think of this in relation to A Serious Man. And that it hits me more in this context. I can see this as a companion piece to both A Serious Man and The Big Lebowski.
Okay.
Through the Rylance and the Tom Hanks characters, respectively. So,
interesting.
I see, I'm seeing Rylance now as he's a more principled counterpoint to the dude's kind of Zen detachment with his, question of he says you don't look worried, and he just goes, would it help?
Mm-hmm.
And he's competent in the ways that the dude is not. But detached, it's more overtly of a sort of philosophical and I don't know, almost existential approach that he has to the uncertainty of the world, and just, I'm going to do my job, serve my country as the best I can, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, he won the Oscar for this role, and it's a pretty good one to win an Oscar for. It's not it's not a real showy role, not exactly. But it definitely is a great showcase. I guess.
Yeah, it's showy in its stoicism, which is an odd thing to parse.
Yeah, it's really underplayed and very effectively. It's one of the few Oscar wins for acting that a Spielberg film has made. I think it's this and Daniel Day-Lewis, and that's it.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No supporting for Wayne Knight in Jurassic Park, huh?
He was up against Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List.
Oh, that's right. That was the double year.
Okay. But and I don't think Tom Hanks was even nominated for a terrific performance here. Maybe he was. Actually, I think he was. Now, I'd have to double check.
He should have been. It's very much a movie star performance, not in the sense of big and sexy and actiony, but just no one else could do this.
This is exactly why you cast Tom Hanks. This is in his Jimmy Stewart era. When he was playing right into that rather than kind of subverting it, which he's sort of after now. Feels like a little bit. But he's this is one of the few actors that can effectively play an avatar for righteousness and doing the right thing. Effectively in that sort of old Hollywood style, Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird, that kind of guy. Right. You need somebody with the gravitas of Tom Hanks. And this might be the most he's ever played into that. Maybe. I don't know. Mr. Rogers, perhaps, but
there's probably other examples, but I mean, it's as good of an example as any. And like I said, kind of wouldn't work without somebody like him. And that the Jim Donovan character that he plays, you're right. I probably would have a couple months ago compared him to Jimmy Stewart first and foremost, rather than Larry Gopnik from A Serious Man. But it's really more of a contrast. That I think the movie presents Jim Donovan as somebody who faces a sorts of a little more I guess, tangible, real world political rather than the just existential nature of the no-win dilemmas that Gopnik gets to, but where they're tapping him to defend the Soviet spy, and he lays out, "Oh, great! So everyone will hate me, but at least I'll also lose." But he steps up and he endures all the slings and arrows that fortune has for him, and for no other reason than it's the right thing to do. And for that, he is ultimately kind of spared the whirlwind and the cancer diagnosis that Larry is subjected to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, his inner resilience is absolutely necessary. I mean, that's what the movie's about, essentially, is the inner resilience of this character. Like, without that, there is no dramatic stakes to the thing. Like, he, even to the point where you're just sort of like, man, you don't really need to run the appeal for him, too. No one wants you to, but he's like, no, I'm going to do it. There's points where you're just kind of like, you're being a little bullheaded here. And even as an audience member who knows what kind of movie you're watching. And, I think that stuff is necessary, actually.
But that resilience connects it to Unbroken, obviously, but I think less directly. It's what connects it to A Serious Man for me, in that Larry does not exhibit that resilience. And
I mean, that's why I wouldn't necessarily think of that. Is that it's the exact opposite of Larry Gopnik. Although, I mean, Larry doesn't even.
He blinks at the crucial moment.
He blinks, at the end. But I at no point am I just like, I believe Larry has the resilience to pull this off.
No, of course not.
He's outmatched from the first thing that happens, deflates him completely. And
it makes Larry feel like a more real, normal guy than Tim Donovan, the actual historical figure.
Yeah. Well.
But it's funny that it's in these movies that they didn't actually direct themselves, where it seems like they present the sort of more aspirational alternative to, I guess, the cautionary tales that they tend to work with in their own stuff.
Well, there's less irony in all these films, I guess. Well, maybe not Crime Wave, but for like the rest of them, I think are a little bit less, less arch, a little bit more down to earth, and a little more sincere in its representation. And notably, a lot of these are about real life figures. But
that not Suburbicon, that's what makes it so weird, is that it's repeating the story of Fargo with both less irony and less realism.
Right. That's weird, because that isn't, I mean, that actually seems like their kind of milieu, but they're treating it like it's not, that it's, or maybe that's Clooney. Clooney's failing as a director. Like, he can't find that satirical tone.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, I don't know. It's a pretty interesting sidebar career here. These scripts, I would say Bridge of Spies got to be the most successful. And I mean, there's other people contributing to that, obviously, Spielberg and Hanks, they're pretty good. So that helps. But of the films that I watched for, after we got through all these Coen Brothers movies, that was definitely the one I was just like, yeah, this is part of a continuum.
And we're glossing over it to talk about the continuum aspect, but also just a really good movie. It's a very good movie.
Yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. It's a very adult film. It doesn't really, play to the audience the way that you would see from a lot of Spielberg. Even stuff like Munich, I think, is a little bit more kind of crowd pleasing in immediate cinema. But man, it's a good movie. It's a smart movie. It's rewarding if you put the time into it. You kind of do have to really, really lock in when you're watching Bridge of Spies.
Yeah. I love the final text crawl of that movie. Yeah. It's sort of the exact opposite of what you'd expect from a Coen Brother punchline at the end. It ends with the crawl saying how he was sent to Cuba to negotiate the release of 1,000 prisoners a few years later, and then he ended up getting back 9,000 instead. Like, Coen Brothers original characters don't succeed beyond their aspirations.
That's the Spielberg
fall well
too.
Short of them.
That's the Spielberg of it, like this guy is that good,
Sure.
This is a hero, in no uncertain terms. This movie is like, this man is a fucking hero. Appreciate him. And that's fun, Yeah, you wouldn't see a Coen Brother movie do that necessarily. So it's nice that Spielberg can kind of bring their version of that out.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to their solo work, since they parted ways after Buster Scruggs. And it's almost like,
for no real reason, right? That I could see.
No, well, again, we speculated that maybe they just felt like they were starting to rerun a lot of the same stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're very good at hiding that and finding different ways to present those things. But now that we're expert sort of Coen Brothers detectives, we could sniff out their tropes. It's almost like they sat down and plotted, like, they're notoriously opaque about their processes.
Yeah.
But they're like, maybe just to fuck with people, we'll create the cleanest narrative we possibly could, where I will go and make a really stayed black and white Shakespeare adaptation, and you will go make Dildos Are Funny the movie.
Yeah.
We will bifurcate our career as cleanly as possible.
I'm trying to resist kind of like being like, well, obviously you pour all these aspects of the Coens into the Joel container, and these aspects clearly go into the Ethan container, because I do not believe it's that simple. Every indication is that they are of one mind on the set. They share a sense of humor, a sense of gravity, like all the things that define these movies, come from both of them equally, from every indication.
I don't think that, in general, artistic collaborations break down that cleanly.
No.
But every indication, if these two movies are what we have to work from, would suggest it.
Yeah, I mean, if you are just directly comparing the tragedy of Macbeth and Drive Away Dolls, and being like, this was one guy, this was the other, and if you put them together, Raising Arizona, you can kind of clearly be like, okay, well, this goes here, this goes there. It's a sorting game on your app, essentially.
Right. But for all that, they both do feel like Coen Brothers movies to me.
Totally.
That Drive Away Dolls presents as one of their wacky comedies much more directly.
Mm-hmm.
I was struck this time too how much more like, Macbeth has a ton of Coen Brothers aspects to it. But let's start with Drive Away Dolls, since it's a smaller snack to get through.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. I mean, it's an 85-minute comedy. Oh, what a blessing an 85-minute comedy is.
An 85-minute comedy is it's a benediction. It's so beautiful. It's my favorite thing about the movie, maybe. How quick it's over. I'm not wild about Drive Away Dolls, I'll admit. I think it's solid. I think it's fine, good, funny. The only person I'm really on board with in this is Margaret Qualley. Kind of wonderful. Kind of doing extraordinary work. Carrying the whole thing. The accent totally works. I think she's
her and Bill Camp, yes.
And Bill Camp, yes. Bill Camp's 5 minutes are great. That's
yeah. No, you're right. Margaret Qualley is amazing. I never would have pegged her for like, oh, that's what you want in the John Goodman part for your Coen Brothers movie. The loquacious Southerner.
Kind of right, yeah. Uh-huh.
But yeah, she's great. And yes, I've heard some gripes about the accent. It's big and broad, and also, why on earth would you want less big or less broad for this movie? Like, how would more groundedness possibly sell this material any better?
No, the other actress, Geraldine Viswanathan. She is doing the grounded thing, and I think it's the less effective performance. Not bad, just less effective.
No. Yeah, she's weirdly. I thought of her as, is she like the Jason Bateman of her generation now? I think maybe. I've only seen her do straight man parts in big, broad, goofy comedies. And she makes them work. So I think she's doing a good job there.
Yeah,
with the more thankless roles.
I'm sure if you had two people at Margaret Qualley's energy level and level of broadness, then that probably would break the film a little bit, perhaps.
No, you would have no contrast.
Exactly, yeah. And there's so much goofy shit going on, animated scene transitions left and right. We're all over the place here. Dick jokes, lots of lesbian jokes, lots of sex, lots of I don't know. There's some violence, I guess. I do really enjoy the criminals talking to each other stuff. I mean, yeah, that's always pretty much chalk for the Coen Brothers. They're gonna be able to do those scenes very well. It feels a little kind of just like been there, done that with these guys. You only got Joey Slotnick and one other dude who I don't know. They're doing a good job, but it's are they Peter Stormare and Steve Buscemi? They are not.
They are no. Yes, it's the duo of criminals straight out of Fargo, where one's really talkative and one's really taciturn. Mm-hmm. But to lesser effect. And is it? It's also really distracting how Joey Slotnick looks like JB Smoove that's gone to a Halloween party in whiteface. But
he does. Holy shit! Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You also get the decrepit old man on a respirator randomly in this at one of the hotels. That leads me to conclude that Ethan is the one who had the traumatic run-in with an old man on a respirator. As it's now. And also that maybe Joel is the one who's bringing more of the skepticism about self-improvement and like self-actualization to this, because these heroes here have a fairly conventional romantic arc and happy ending compared to other Coen Brothers movies.
Yeah, and I think that robs it a little bit. Is that this never feels dangerous or impactful in the way that a lot of these movies do, and kind of how could it? It's about dildos at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's about outdoes like the slow burn dildo joke from Burn After Reading.
Yeah.
I mean, this way, so ultimately, this movie is, to give away sort of some of the comedic turns it takes, I suppose, but it's a ransom plot over a suitcase full of dildos instead of money. And in some ways, that is the apotheosis of all Coen Brothers plots. Because it's usually it's always a bag of money and a fake ransom thing going on, but also
and a funny dick. Yeah, that's true. And I think that is kind of the thing about this movie is it feels a little bit like we've seen the better versions of this, and maybe that's just because like we were saying a moment ago, watching this in a continuum with all the Coen Brothers movies preceding it maybe does not do it the most justice. Maybe that limits its effectiveness because you've seen virtually every single beat of this play out, usually in some sort of iconic way.
Yeah,
and then you get to
but
this
it
one.
is for
it's
that,
fine.
all that.
It's fine.
And it's sort of revealing, like you said. Like you hesitate to be like, oh, this proves that Ethan brought all the comedy to the duo, because I don't think that's the case. I think it more definitively proves that he was traumatized by an old man with a respirator, and also that maybe have peeked in through his fence at a neighbor sunbathing nude in their backyard as a formative sexual experience.
It must be, yeah.
Because that's here and a serious man.
Very much, yes. A lot of these, I'm really surprised how much A Serious Man came into my head watching all these movies in the last few weeks. That was, I think that maybe is, I think we kind of identified it as an text a bit, but it's real foundational stuff, I think. If that's them, that's their lives. That's what they sort of the main thing about them as persons would probably have to come from A Serious Man, I would say, at this point. If I'm guessing.
Yeah. It's definitely their most autobiographical movie, just in terms of where it's like time and place that it's set.
Right.
And also, like I said, we view it as more of an text because it's more on a thematic front. It is making that explicit and grappling explicitly with those themes that are usually left as subtext.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's also puts these movies in a place where I'm comparing them to A Serious Man, which I love. So that's the issue with that, maybe.
Doesn't know favors.
Exactly. Drive Away Dolls does have some very good bits. Quality again is terrific. The vibe is good. The speed is good. Great pacing as always. Fun character actors. It's almost a little like you got Pedro Pascal and Matt Damon, but this is all you could think of for them to do. Like you got nothing for him really. Pascal has 2 lines maybe. Like it's kind of distracting, I would say, to see these big names kind of popping up a little bit.
He wasn't quite as big of a name, probably when that was filmed, but
right.
Yeah, but they're just good bits. I can't overstate possibly how much I love that they don't resolve Curly's fate. just leave him lying there moaning on the floor of the pawn shop.
Bill Camp is great. That's a guy who definitely feels like he belongs in a Coen Brothers film. Hopefully see him again down the line because he's a good time here.
And I wondered, one of my thoughts watching this, it's such a good gag that I wonder how much of this movie was just written backwards from the newspaper headlines at the end about Damon's character.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of striking in my memory of the film is just that resolution, which makes no sense in the film. It's sort of just like, why is he here at all? Why he wouldn't show up for this? That's ridiculous. Doesn't matter. It's this movie. It's the dildo heist movie. It's fine. We're not really it's not even really a character, to be honest. It's
Yeah, I mean, it's fine, whatever. It's a vehicle for the headlines to talk about how he was shot outside of a lesbian bar holding a box with severed head and sex toys. But
I mean, this is a collaboration between Ethan Coen and his wife.
Yes.
Is sort of the big notable thing about it. You know, Joel, of course, is famously married to Frances McDormand. Ethan is married to a writer and I think editor named Trisha Cook. And this is their collaboration. I think they are both credited directors. Is that correct? Or is it just Ethan?
I think they're both credited writers. I don't remember if she's credited.
And producers.
She might be and producers. She might be credited as editor and him as director, or maybe
I think that's what it is, yeah. But they are going to continue on this path, apparently. They are already working on a follow-up called, the title is great, it's called Honey, Don't, with a little comma in the middle, which is a Margaret Qualley detective film, which part of what they say is going to be a trilogy of low-budget lesbian crime comedies.
Sign me up. I had fun with this. And I feel like Margaret Qualley stock's on the rise. I'm for that.
I think if there's 3 movies like this, that actually does make it better in a way. Like if there is a trilogy of these, then that's kind of fun. I think that would be neat. If they're of this quality, then we're good. It'll be a good time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you know what I find most interesting about him working with Trisha Cook here, and it's kind of like it's really sweet in a way that as the Coen brothers separated, their solo outings are both collaborations with their wives.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost like they still needed to keep it in the family. Like they need, like almost, like I think it's sweet. I mean, it's nice that they like to work with their wives, but I think it's sweet about the brothers' relationship that they, like, it suggests to me that they feel so adrift as solo artists that they still need like a security blanket of family to work with. Like,
that's nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk about, I don't know.
Yeah,
more Driveway Dolls thoughts, or can we get to it?
No, man, Macbeth. This, I liked this movie the first time I saw it. I really liked it watching it again recently. And
same.
I mean,
same. Yeah,
we've talked about Shakespeare movies before. When this first came out, I think it prompted us to do an episode about Shakespeare movies. Man, Macbeth's a good one. It's probably my favorite. And
okay, yeah, Macbeth is maybe the best Shakespeare play. And I don't mean like the best, technically written. I think Macbeth is the most malleable and the easiest to succeed with. If you were to do it modern, like I don't think I've ever seen a production of Macbeth that I didn't like. I think it is probably the most resilient to whatever you want to do to it. The hook of it is so like sound and so powerful. The dialogue is some of the most easy to parse, I would say, in the canon. It is accessible.
Relative scale, yes.
Yeah, it is, you get it. Like, this is also like one of the shortest plays. You don't have to cut much from it. And it kind of just works. It is a really, really, really good piece of writing, as it turns out. And so, you put great actors, great camera, was a great cinematography. The director of photography on this is their guy from Buster Scruggs, the new guy, Bruno Carbonell, I think. Wow, lights out work there. You just know what you're doing, and you're going to come up with something really solid. And I think it would be an understatement to call this solid. This is kind of awesome. This is a hell of a film. A lot of fun.
Well, and the cinematography is such a huge part of that. Now, the look of the film, I don't know if I can like 100% use. I don't know if I can apply the term Brechtian to this presentation. Not least because I'm not 100% sure I know the definition for sure. But in the way that the shadows, the empty, like the shadows and the empty spaces are arranged in this way that highlights the theatricality of it. It's not going for realism at all. But I was struck this time by the look of it is going for something similar to, I think, what they're doing in Fargo, which is extremely realist in its presentation, but also takes place in this sort of looming white haze that obscures the backgrounds and I think represents a sort of moral fog that the characters are operating within.
Yes.
That's way more explicit with Macbeth than it is in Fargo.
Yeah. The theatricality. I mean, you could actually put this thing on stage. It feels like with the level of kind of constructed artifice that is going on. The imagery feels like it's built for a proscenium a lot of the time, even if it's impossible in that context. But just the way light hits things. The use of black and white photography on this is feels necessary. Ultimately, it's a gorgeous black and white movie, but. Like the fact that we just don't have extras pretty much, there's just nobody here. We're not even trying to convince you that this is Scotland. This is just a moral haze that everyone exists in more than anything.
Yeah. And the lack of extras highlights how like their ambition is just sort of empty and that they're not, there's nothing actually to be gained for them here.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's fantastic. It's
they get to rule these 4 people, I guess.
Yeah. It's also it's the stuff that their movies are about too. It's about fate and happenstance and luck and all the things that you like the things that life does to you that you have no control over versus the unknowable nature of existence. Like if you hadn't been told this by the witches, would it have happened anyway? Probably not. Or maybe it would have happened better. But you can't ever actually know. And knowing will fuck you up. It'll drive you insane. It is knowledge that you shouldn't have.
That was so striking this time, because I think after watching it the first time, I would have told you that, it's probably the least like Coen-y of the Coen projects. And now, in the context of all these episodes we've done, I don't want to completely oversell how big of a Rosetta Stone this is for like all the Coen stuff, but there's so much here that seems that now makes sense to me. That why Joel Coen is like especially drawn to this play. I mean, first of all, this gives us the speech about it's all life is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, and that's burn after reading to a T, sure. But really, the theme that's emerged for me in the back half of the Coen's filmography especially is that skepticism of self-improvement. And Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, they're sort of the ultimate strivers. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, he says he decides he's driven by this vaulting ambition, which overleaps itself and falls upon the other. And there you go. That's all Coen, that's their comedy characters and their tragedy characters. They're all over, Jerry Lindegaard overleaps himself. And falls on his face. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is a sense, a little bit that, Macbeth is kind of not just a Rosetta Stone for the Coens, but for,
sort of
writing
drama.
Yeah. For literature and other things like that. This is one of the defining characters of Western civilization in many ways, at least as it pertains to power. I think it's almost impossible to tell a story about power, political power especially, without kind of dipping your toe into Macbeth a little bit, and many other Shakespeare's as well. It's that.
Yeah, maybe you can do more of a Richard III, where he doesn't have the conscious. I mean, what I think you talked about how Macbeth is so malleable and indestructible. It's because the core dramatic arcs here, I think, are boiled down to their bones. Some of the strongest bones you can find in drama. That you got a man and a woman together, and she's driving him to take this, murderous leap in the name of ambition. And he's reluctant to do that at first. And then as things go on, she grows a conscience and goes crazy, and he loses his conscience, becomes a total monster. And they cross each other, passing the other way. And that's just such good dramatic arcing. It's 2 arcs. They interact together. They're going the opposite way. Mm-hmm. It gets you so much of everything in 2 characters.
Denzel needs less of a push than other Macbeths I've seen, I would note.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Denzel in a moment. But one more thing that you touched on earlier, I think that is the other big Coen Brothers through line here is the predestination stuff and the witches. Like the weird sisters in this are another idea of someone that holds the secret code to the universe. Yeah. Gives that to Macbeth, and he still fails to prosper, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Does him no good, ultimately, yes.
Yeah, leaves him in the room. But he does get what he wants at first, which most of the Coens, doomed idiots don't actually get to spend any time on top if they're Jerry Lundegaard or Ed Crane before they fall. but that is very much, seeing the prophecies of the Weird Sisters in relation to like the mentaculus of a serious man or whatever. It's this knowledge. It's all the secrets of the universe, but also it will screw you over to know it.
Well, I mean, it's there in the first scene with the witches. One of my favorite, exchanges is, Banquo comes in and asks what his fate will be. And the line is lesser than Macbeth and greater, not so happy, yet much happier. So cool. Yeah. Like, that's it. Like
okay. Thanks for nothing.
But that's the thing. Macbeth gets what he gets what he wants, but not really, not actually. Like, it's and that's look, I love this play, and it's hard to fuck it up, like I said. So any version of this is going to be fun. There are many. Is this the best film of Macbeth? There's so many. I don't know. How many? It's tough to say.
I haven't seen it in a while, but I really love the Polanski version.
That's a big contender.
I feel way more comfortable praising Joel Coen than Roman Polanski, so maybe I just want to give it the edge on that front. But
there's that. The Polanski thing does one thing that I really dislike, which is does the soliloquies as voiceover. Never a fan of that. But otherwise, man, it's great. Mm-hmm.
That's fair enough. Okay, well, this thing has an Achilles heel. There are things. Okay, maybe we'll talk about that. What I think the problem is, and then we can come back to praising it to end. The problem this movie has is, I think the leads are kind of fundamentally miscast.
Okay. I can't agree. We're doing Brechtian theatricality here. It's fine. I know what you mean. I understand, but the juice of seeing great actors take on this material is part of the fun with Shakespeare. And yes, I can't take them, as explicit characters within the milieu of medieval Scotland necessarily.
Oh, I don't care about the wrong color.
No.
Accents don't match.
Or the age, or, we're not really dealing with that. We're dealing with the emotions, I think. We're dealing with the ideas and the philosophical struggles and battles that these guys are dealing with. That stuff, you want to see great actors do that. And these are great actors. I
do, but the age is part of it. And having them be explicitly sort of, past childbearing years.
Yeah, they're not having kids.
As a couple changes things fundamentally, which, it's an adaptation. Changing something fundamentally like that is a choice that I might applaud for its own sake. It raises some questions here because, I guess having them being too old to have children highlights how hollow this pursuit is ultimately of power for its own sake.
Sure, that's the justification, I would say.
But so much of the plot still revolves around him being concerned about Banquo's sons usurping his succession plan that raises questions about, well, what is your succession plan? What do you want to have happen here? That the play cannot, they alter like one line to make it about having children between them, but they can't, or he doesn't feel comfortable adding a bunch of lines to explain sort of what he wants to see happen, that he's trying to head off here from being destroyed.
I think that ultimately it becomes more, and this is aided by the theatricality of the presentation. It becomes about raging against just losing things because of the passage of time. Like, that it is everything you have goes away eventually. Mm-hmm. Any level or station that you attain is inherently temporal. It will go away because you will age and die. You cannot hold on to what you have forever. It is impossible. And he is raging against that. He is challenging that directly, which is, a losing battle no matter what.
Right.
And that's kind of true even if he is young enough to have a kid.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing. The age is part of, like I said, it's not the main thing anymore. I think again, when we talked about it the first time, I probably harped on the age as the issue.
We did talk about
now. I think even if they were younger, I think Denzel would not be very well cast as a Macbeth because he's a tremendous actor, But even tremendous actors, they have areas of strength and I mean, I'd call it weakness, but less strength. If there's one thing that I don't think Denzel can do that well, it's portray indecisiveness. Like contemplation, sure. Reluctance, okay, but not reluctance like rooted in fear. Like he might hem and haw a bit over how to act, but he's going to act. He's going to be. He's never not going to be. And so Macbeth has to spend a lot of the first act of this play, especially hemming and hawing about whether he should do this thing. And I'm like, well, Denzel,
you're going to do it. You're Denzel.
You don't doubt yourself. Yeah. What are we talking about here?
Well, maybe that's kind of why I was saying earlier that this guy needs less pushing than other Macbeths. That there's a little less to his dithering, and yeah, I do think that my favorite part of his performance is the second half of the movie when he's kind of just full into it. When he's just chewing on the dialogue. He's just like,
he's better in the third act than the first act. Is my contention.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I do think he's awesome. I mean, I think he's a lot of fun in this. I think it's a terrific performance of Macbeth. It's probably not the greatest Macbeth I've ever seen, but it's kind of a treat to watch, no matter what. And yeah, I kind of relish just seeing him tear apart these monologues and do his Denzel things. He does all his mannerisms and his approaches to it. It's just fun. It's just fun. I think he makes a real meal of it, and that works for me in this.
It's most effective when he's completely lost his mind and embraced being the monster, and when that King Kong doesn't have shit on thee.
Yeah, when he's full on Alonzo from Training Day in the third act of this, it is a lot of fun.
When he's losing his mind, I see it. I see an actor working a little more. But all right. So that piece there, let's go back to some of the fantastic things about this. A couple of other visual things I want to highlight. I like the dagger monologue, the way that do I see a dagger before me, and the way they've set up just the light coming through the door to Duncan's bedroom.
That's early in the film. He kind of nails that one, right? He's so good in that monologue.
Yeah, that's him getting to the point of, all right, we're doing this. And like you said, it almost feels like he's not sincerely dithering. He's just like talking himself through, like, all right, here's why I do what I know I'm going to do. But that's a lot of Macbeths, I guess, probably could play it that way. Also just the presentation of Birnam Wood coming to the castle, just the opening the windows and just all the dead leaves flowing, like flooding through the throne room. The fight with the young guy that he kills before he fights Macduff.
I love that there's just forest in the background of the courtroom there. It's amazing. So cool. Yeah. Very
stark, very, very beautiful. It's great. It makes the final duel with Macduff feel like a touch of a letdown because it's not as aggressively staged. But
I do like that he's reaching for the crown when he leaves himself open. That's a neat little touch. Yeah,
that is. Yeah. Okay, I guess the two best things about this. One, I know one you agree with me on. The other one I'm not as sure about. How do you feel about the handling of Ross in this? That's like the biggest stretch this takes as an adaptation, I feel like.
I don't think it works. To be honest, I don't think it matters. We're going to create a new plot line here with no dialogue. And this version of Macbeth is not really plot focused. It is character focused. So we're going to add this weird plot curlicue with a character that really we can't make dialogue up to explain. So we're just kind of going to work really hard to make sense of this thing. And it's not uninteresting, but
this is not the first adaptation to make him the third murderer, as I understand it.
No. But, I'm sure every fucking character in Macbeth has been the third murderer in some production. Yes. But yes, it's a thing you can do. But
yeah, they said it's strainingly hard to just through visuals kind of create a plot line where he's more of a Littlefinger character that's manipulating more of these things. And also maybe in the end connected to the witches in some undefined way. I don't know. I feel like you said, this is a play that's been done 6,000 times and I'm all for trying something different with it.
Yeah, so it's fine. It's fine.
It's something new that this brings to the table other than the age thing. I guess that's kind of new as a thing.
No, that's not new. There's always been old people playing roles they're too old for Shakespeare. Don't worry. There have been 50-year-old Romeo and Juliets. No, don't worry about it, man. Yeah.
But the thing that I've never seen another Macbeth do that I think might be genuinely new is suggest that he actually murdered Lady Macbeth rather than she committed suicide. And that allows for the sort of signature Coen thing that I've been tracking about the murder by implication, the off-screen murder where they show us how this character operates and then the least amount to tell us, hosing out feathers from the truck means that the guy had his brains knocked out or whatever.
Right. I'll be honest, I didn't even track that. So, I mean, that's maybe a less successful version of it, or maybe I'm just so familiar with the text that I'm ahead of it in that way, and I'm not even looking for the thing. But yeah, you're right. Now that I think back on it, there is a slight implication of something like that. Again, I don't care about this because this is not a plot-oriented version of Macbeth. We've cut out almost every other character, essentially. Like this is about two people, this version. And so this added stuff with Ross with no dialogue to explain it feels extraneous and kind of at cross purposes with the point of the thing, you know? I think the actor's good. I think he's, cuts an incredible figure visually. The way they've got him decked out, he is sort of a Mephistopheles figure throughout, and that's cool. Yeah, that all works. But yeah, I don't think it adds much to the film, to be honest.
Oh, I like it. Like I said, visually, I like his look, and it's something else between monologues going on. So
that's true. Yeah, I don't think it hurts much. Yeah, it's interesting. It's doing a thing.
And it's novel. It's probably less. Okay, I don't know if the presentation of the witches in this movie through Catherine Hunter is as unique as has never been attempted before. But man, it's the most successful thing about this movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Here's, I think, the key to this, which is it's doing crazy, weird cinematic stuff with how she is staged and photographed, and she's three people and one person at the same time, all of that. And then at the same time, she's also delivering just an incredible regular performance. Well, not regular, that's the wrong word, but like you also take out all the camera tricks and frippery and just point a camera at her and let her go, and it's just as effective and well thought out and considered, and it all works in concert.
Well, she's playing three people and one person, and they're also a bird.
Yeah,
there's the great introduction where it's sort of like you see a bird kind of morph into her, but kind of off screen, but kind of not. But her like arms are bending in unnatural ways.
And there's that shot early on that's just her doing her thing. That is a pristine staging. You could see that performance on stage where she's like, using her leg as an arm and then doing the weird thing. She's like kind of running around, tapping her shoulders. Like it's crazy witch shit that you don't really understand, but it's notably, it's weird. It is creepy and alien, and you're just like, what the fuck am I even looking at? Is there a trick going on there? No, it's just Catherine Hunter. That's then in tandem with that, you've got the shadows in the pool, which is just one of the most striking images in the whole film. A film of striking images, and it's just my favorite witches ever. Maybe I think for anything, it's so fucking cool. I mean, they're just great. The witches are such an amazing device anyway. They're going to be the best part of almost any production.
I think there's probably some where the Macbeth or the Lady Macbeth performance overshadows things when you have Laurence Olivier or somebody who's world renowned doing it. But yeah, no, they're the most thing you can have the most fun with, I guess, as adaptation from a direction standpoint.
Oh yeah, and performance. It's the best performance in the movie too.
Oh yes, in this case, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, can't say enough. I definitely want more witches than I'm given by the text in this case.
Yes.
I'd like to see, well, I don't know. I guess just the uncut version would be fine. There is a segment in Macbeth that always gets cut where the witches meet with their boss, Hecate, and get marching orders. No one ever uses it. It's the most cuttable thing in the world. Reduces their mystique dramatically, but in this case, it'd almost be like, yeah, try it out. Show the Hecate scene.
You want some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, for this Macbeth.
Well, what would they do with it? How would Catherine Hunter play that? I want to know. How would Joel Coen represent Hecate? I'm saying that name wrong.
Hecate?
Hecate? Something like,
yeah, got better rhythm to it. Anyway,
it's the famous witch, Hecate.
Yeah. So yes, Best Witch. I mean, we talked recently about Catherine. I think you nominated her for a de facto Oscar in our Oscar snub episode.
And we've been watching Andor a lot too, of course, which is Catherine Hunter heavy. You know,
yeah, she's become our patron saint of this year, especially.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's the Coen Brothers stuff. We now have to rank them all, which we will do.
Are we going to include Driveway Dolls and Tragedy Macbeth in that ranking, or what do you think?
I think so. I don't. None of the other ones, but the ones that he wrote and directed. Well, I guess he didn't write Macbeth, but
right.
Well, he got a screenplay credit, I suppose. Right? Don't you still get those for stage play adaptations?
Yes, you can. It's kind of a stupid rule, frankly, but yes, you can. You can get nominated for best adapted screenplay for just presenting Hamlet with no cuts.
Right. But okay, so we're gonna do the ones they directed. That's the ruling, I think.
Fair enough. Okay, so that'll be a 20 film ranking, longest we've ever done. Okay, we'll have to have that in mind as we do it to move things along.
All right.
I'll
see you then.
And on that note, a promise of a long one that we'll try to go through fast. All right, later, man.
85 minutes should be our target.
Yeah, 85 minutes.
Tom, I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, where the tie's back.